Akatsuki runs for his life in a cloak, carrying a large bag. Arrows come flying at him, and he attempts to dodge the barrage of fire. He is cornered by maids, and they fire direct shots at him. However, he blocks all of them with just his hand, and takes off his cloak. They shoot ropes to restrain him, begging him to come back to the castle, but he just pulls them towards him and licks one of their ears. He runs off, but gets cornered by all the maids. They rush towards him, ready to end him. However, he vanishes in a flash of speed, and has managed to unclothe all of the women. The final maid stands behind him, telling him that she will not let him pass through the otherworld gate. He tells her to try him, and she rushes forward. He walks towards an elf but just ignores her. She stops him and asks him if he's truly leaving. He tells her that he has defeated the Dark Lord, so he has no reason to remain here anymore. She cries, apologizing to him. He leans over and kisses her, and she asks him what he just did and slaps him. He tells her that he couldn't help it because she was crying, and tells her that she'll never forget him this way. She tells him that he'll pay like every other tsundere, and tells him that she loathes him and walks away. He tells her not to ever forget what he told her, and that he will always rush to her aid if she needs him. He tells her to never forget, and walks away to the otherworldly gate. Inside his apartment, he opens the bag, and a girl with big plot sits there. He wonders if he should develop plot, but decides to restrain himself. He asks her to wake up, and she wakes up. She screams in shock, unsure of why she's unclothed. He tells her to calm down, and she tells him not to look at her. He tells her that this is his room, and tells her to just relax. She pulls the bed sheet next to him and asks him why her plot was out, and he tells her it's so that she could cross the dimension. He introduces himself to her, telling her his name is Akatsuki, and that he was the rogue hero when he lived in her world. She tells him her name is Myuu, and their relationship begins. After that day, she stares outside the balcony, and sees a car approaching them. She gets in it with Akatsuki, and he realizes that they're already out to get him. He tells her to go over the cover story with him, and tells her that starting today, she will be his long-lost little sister. She remembers him telling her that she reunited with him in a different world, and they reunited together and made it back through the world gate. He tells her to act more dignified, because it would be a pain if anyone blew her cover. She raises her back and her plot explodes out. A council looks over his information, and they realize that he is known as the true hero and overlord. They wonder what this prophecy means. The white-haired man leaves, saying he's going to pay him a visit. A man walks them to an arena, telling them that their physical and magical attacks will only affect the opponent mentally. They could still feel pain, so it is possible to pass out, but there will be no physical damage. He tells them that he will be testing their skills, and asks them to pick any weapons they want. She picks up a sword, but Akatsuki says he will only use his hand. The man calls him arrogant and prepares to face off against Myuu. She opens her magical circle, and he realizes that she's a mage. She unleashes her water blast, sending him crashing. He is surprised that she is able to cast such a strong spell so quickly while still maintaining a defensive barrier, but Akatsuki congratulates her on her strength. Akatsuki no longer has an opponent, but a man from the distance comes and says he will be his opponent. He is the student council president, Kiyoya. He offers to be his opponent, and Akatsuki agrees to this challenge. A large icicle comes to spear Myuu, but he rescues her and calls him a bastard for going after her on purpose. The president tells him that he was just confident in his skills, and tells him that if he's as skilled as he appears to be, then he should try to break that icicle in front of him. Akatsuki thinks this is simple, but Myuu warns him that it is enchanted with a strong defensive spell. Akatsuki tells him that he will face him off as his opponent if he's able to break this icicle, and the president agrees. This excites him, and he walks towards the icicle. He enchants his arm, and remembers a man telling him that he will entrust his daughter to him. He punches towards the icicle with full strength, and the ground beneath him breaks. This impresses the student council president, and he tells him that he will one day be able to truly face him off. He congratulates him and welcomes him to the school. They walk away, and the president remains at the scene. He touches the ice and breaks it with one hand. However, he realized that Akatsuki was holding back just to protect his sister from this fight. He wants the power of the true hero. They head home and see that delicious food has been prepared for them, and Akatsuki thinks it's their reward for a good first day. He hears the man saying that he entrusts his daughter to him, and sees the images of the day he slayed the overlord of the other world. She is the daughter of a dark lord, and her strength will one day lead to her destruction. He snaps back to reality, and thinks that he won't be responsible for whatever happens next. That night, he sleeps under a full moon. Myuu remembers her father entrusting her to him, and how he extended his hand to her to protect her. She cries and goes to stand over his bed. She remembers her dad telling her that it's okay for her to kill the man who defeated him if she didn't find him to be a worthy partner. She casts her dark energy, ready to end him as he sleeps. However, her memories of him overcome her, and her magical energy dissipates. She thinks that she will try to assess his worthiness, but he pulls her hand with his magical energy activated, and throws her on the bed. He goes in for the kiss, and calls her charming for being so bashful. She yells at him, but he calls her cute and asks her for her name. She realizes he's completely asleep, and she yells that she's his sister. She tells him to stop and calls him Big Brother, and sees that he stopped. He tells her that his sister is long dead, and she remembers seeing his portrait. He grabs her plot, and she tells him to stop. The next day, his head feels like it's killing him, and she tells him that nothing happened. However, the clock gets crushed because she had knocked him out with it. They enter school, and everyone is just staring at them. Akatsuki has realized this, and he enters his classroom. He tells her not to worry because new kids are always put in the spotlight when
wait till you see the no
She asks him if it's okay for them to sit wherever, and he tells her that new kids always sit wherever is open. A girl comes and tells them that she's heard of their great accomplishments and how they defeated a teacher and impressed the student council president. However, she wants to warn them that they are sitting in a bully's seat, and he comes in. She tells them his name is Onizuka and he has a superiority complex. He tells them not to ignore him and that there's rules that they need to follow. He destroys him, and Onizuka says that he's got some confidence that he'll destroy. Akatsuki comes and holds his face, telling him that he's also a bully, but he just loves to destroy the pride of people who are full of themselves. He asks him what he thinks, and if he's torn his pride to shreds by now, and Myuu comes and tells him to stop. The girl comes and sees that the discipline committee is coming towards them. Akatsuki, however, was expecting this and tells them that this was part of his plan. He enters the room and sees the student council president's seat. He remembers how he engendered his sister. The student council comes in, and he's sitting in his seat. He tells them that he was just told to wait, and that no one said anything about him being unable to sit in any seat. The president comes in, and he jumps forward, rushing towards him. The three of them activate magical energy. However, he just obliterates all their magical bursts one by one. They try to corner him, but he ignores them. He tells him that he's just preparing to face off against him since he called him to his office. However, the green-haired girl, Haruka, clears the misunderstanding by telling him that she was the one who called for him. She tells him that she's here to give him a warning, and that if he causes more trouble, they will use full force to subdue and restrain him. However, he set a fire, and Haruka comes for him, asking him how dare he. He asks her if this is what she's referring to. She tells him that she won't show him mercy and that she will punish him. She unleashes her weapons and tells him that she will finish him. She rushes forward. She calls him arrogant for his actions, but sees that he's still standing there unharmed. He pulls out her plot armor, and her plot bursts out. She tells him that the student council will make him pay for this. The next day, he is given no food because he disrespected the student council. When going to school to get lunch, Onizuka comes up to Tanaka and tells him it was nice of him to stand in line for him. Akatsuki, however, comes up and tells Onizuka that it was nice of him to stand there in line for him, and gives Tanaka his spot in line back. Tanaka thanks him, and everyone realizes Akatsuki is the real deal. This angers Onizuka. During gym, everyone is staring at Myuu, and he tells her that she's really pushing the limits. He asks her if he should use his power to help her relax, and she tells him that it caused her a lot of trouble last night. He wonders what she meant, but she pretends nothing happened. Haruka comes, telling the other student council representatives to try to handle Akatsuki, but they make fun of her for being unable to do anything against him. The president comes, and Haruka attempts to ask him to deal with Akatsuki, but he glares at her, telling her that he will personally handle issues dealing with Akatsuki. A person enters the computer control room and messes with the stats of a monster to max them out. They prepare in their class, and the teacher asks them to activate their magical abilities. Myuu is able to summon a spear and control it with her will. However, Akatsuki is unable to summon any weapon. He tells him that he can't use any magic. They go on to start class, and the teacher tells them to either create groups of 2 or more or find an opponent. The girls are already all teamed up with each other, so he decides to fight against Onizuka. Onizuka asks him why he would be his partner, and Akatsuki tells him that he will kill him if he disagrees. Then he says he's just joking because he can't even use magical weapons. Onizuka smiles slyly. They summon a cicatrice. It happens to be the weakest monster because its petrification ability is turned off, and it happens to always have very weak stats. The teacher begins the mock battle, and Akatsuki and Onizuka are first up against each other. Onizuka appears to have been colluding with the man who buffed up the cicatrice, and thinks it's a shame that he is fighting against him instead of the cicatrice. The match between them begins, and Onizuka unleashes a fire spell on top of Akatsuki that he had planted before the match. The teacher thinks this is a dirty move. Akatsuki thinks that a surprise attack isn't a bad idea, but his timing was too predictable. Onizuka launches his swords towards him, but Akatsuki deals with them instantly. Akatsuki rushes forward, and Onizuka is unable to do anything but lay defeated. He takes his wristband, thinking it's depressing that he is unable to wield magic, but he is. He puts on his wristband and sees that they both begin to activate but turn off. However, he hears people screaming and sees that they are being petrified. Everyone is turned to stone. The representative attempts to buy time. However, her attacks don't affect the monster at all. Myuu blocks the bird from hitting her, and her friend casts a spell to knock it back with Myuu. They regroup and begin to activate their magical abilities together. They crush the bird and trap it in stone, but the representative realizes they made a grave mistake. The cicatrice appears to be absorbing their magic for itself. The cicatrice readies another attack, and the representative and Myuu's friend attempt to protect her from the ensuing attack. They fall down after being petrified, and she realizes that if it smashes their petrified bodies, they could die. She holds off the bird from destroying them, and uses all her energy to continue fighting against it. The cicatrice is ready to kill her, but Akatsuki comes and apologizes for keeping her waiting. He launches an attack towards it, sending it crashing back. He holds Myuu, telling her that she can leave the rest to him now. He raises his hand, and he has taken more than 7 wristbands. He summons a giant sword. Obsidian metal begins to appear with a purple aura. He gets in position, ready to attack. The cicatrice launches at him and sends its feathers flying. Akatsuki parries them, but his arm has already been petrified. He slashes toward the bird, but it continues fighting. He continues striking, remembering how he stole the wristbands of the others. He strikes it repeatedly, enhancing his sword with his magical energy and slashing the bird down. The rest of the people in the class begin returning to normal. However, Akatsuki realizes that something is still off. A man walks back to a fiery room, and Akatsuki stops him. Tanaka pretends that he has no idea what Akatsuki is saying, but Akatsuki realizes that he was planning on sneaking the key into Onizuka's pocket during the confusion. Tanaka pretends that he has no idea what Akatsuki is talking about still, but Akatsuki tells him that he was behind this. He tells him that he actually took a liking to him at first because he was taking Onizuka's abuse without saying a word. Tanaka says standing up for himself would have just made the bullying worse. Akatsuki tells him that it's true about bullying, but they both know he's far stronger than Onizuka. Akatsuki reveals that he knew Onizuka had to clean up the stadium after causing trouble, so he took the master key to break into the programming room and played with the cicatrice data, and Tanaka tells him he hit it on the spot. Tanaka jumps forward, kicking Akatsuki. Akatsuki releases his sword, but Tanaka vanishes in a flurry of speed. He continues destroying Akatsuki, and Akatsuki has no ability to fight back. His sword disappears and he gets knocked out. As Tanaka approaches him, Akatsuki activates his sword again and slashes at him. Tanaka realizes that he was trapping him by pretending to be weak, and Akatsuki tells him that he was trying to throw him off guard. Tanaka prepares a spell. Tanaka tells him that he plans on blasting this school with his magical energy. However, Tanaka reveals that he plans on also destroying the building to debris, so that even when they're knocked out, they will be crushed under the rubble. He reveals that this school only exists to deploy students to battlefields around the world. It only exists to kill people, so he wants to destroy it. He asks him to test who's faster, his magic or his sword. Akatsuki prepares to attack. Ice comes from underneath Tanaka, trapping him in place. Kyoya is here, and Akatsuki asks him why he's here. He tells him that he also knew something was off and was waiting to see if Akatsuki would take care of him. Akatsuki gets rid of his sword, telling him that he'd love to fight, but his sister and her friends are harmed and he wants to make sure they're okay. He goes back to the gym where everyone's injuries is being treated. Akatsuki is helping everyone, but Myuu tells him that his own hand was injured and that he shouldn't worry about people. However, she begins to pass out, and she remembers the words of her father telling her that she will live with the person who one day defeats him. But if she ever feels he's unworthy, she may kill him. She wakes up at the nurse's office, and Akatsuki has come and brought her a drink. He asks her if she's feeling better and puts his arm on her shoulder. He realizes that her traps are torn, and he begins applying his magical ability. He tells her that he's helping her muscles heal. She worries he's messing with her energy to make her feel weird, but then tells her that he's just being nice. He pokes her, and she feels weird now. He tells her that all he did was push her button to be honest with herself. She begins to feel sad, and he tells her it's okay to cry. He asks her if she's ever cried since her dad died, and she calls him cruel for suddenly doing this. He tells her that she can talk to him at any time to release her bottled up sadness and hatred onto him. He tells her he was the one who killed her father no matter what the reason was. He tells her that if she's hurting, she can be honest and just say so, and that she can say it directly to the face of the person she hates. He tells her that if she wants to cry but can't cry on her own, then he will help her, because he's the only one there for her now. She grabs him and begins crying on him. The next day, she wakes up and sees that her plot has grown, and she thinks that she will need to go shopping soon. She showers, thinking that maybe she'll take the girls out, and Akatsuki asks her if she's going anywhere. She says that she's planning on buying some underwear, but then realizes that he's floating right on top of her. He tells her that he's just practicing keeping his focus to balance himself on the wall, and hang upside down even when she's there.
We must stay focused, brothers. We must stay focused.
Akatsuki hears the news and sees a man on a plane. His hand shivers, and Myuu asks him what's wrong. However, he doesn't respond. He goes to a balcony, knowing that this man is the person he's been looking for. A man opens the door and sees Akatsuki standing there. He feels like he recognizes him, but doesn't know who he is. Akatsuki pretends that he doesn't know him, but the man remembers him as Akatsuki. He tells him that he's been reading about him and knows he's the hero, and asks him to shake his hands. However, he gets ready to punch him. If you made it to this part of the video, you're the real rogue hero. There are villains among us that we must destroy, so let's confuse them by spamming Rip the Teacher. He was a Giga Chad. No one even knows who the f this guy is, which is why it's so funny. Who is this man, and will he destroy Akatsuki? And for the most important part of this entire story, will Myuu be able to find plot armor for her giant plot? Blow this video up with likes and comments for the next part. Till next time, my fellow plot masters.